I am Flavia Bellieni Zimmermann from the Australian Institute of International Affairs in Western Australia and through the Centre for Muslim Studies from the University of Western Australia. Today we have with us Moeen Cheema. He's a senior lecturer from the Australian National University School of Law, and today we'll be discussing honour-based violence and honour crimes. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Moeen, can you please explain to us how Pakistani laws are dealing with honour crimes, and particularly with honour killings?
Well, unfortunately, Pakistani law doesn't criminalize or penalize honour crimes generally and honour killings specifically to the extent that it should. That has its roots to a great extent in the Islamization of laws, Islamization of criminal laws in Pakistan. Islamization of laws began in the 1980s under General Zia, but intriguingly, it was the highest Sharia court, the Sharia appellate bench of the Supreme Court, which in the early 1990s, post-Zia, insisted, compelled an Islamization of the relevant chapter in the Pakistan Penal Code, which deals with murder, homicides, offences, other violent crimes against the human body. And it's since then that the problem has become quite exacerbated, as I mentioned earlier. What the Islamization of law did was essentially privatize crime and punishment, particularly violence against the person and murder. What that means is theoretically under Islamic law, there are two rights. Crime is not, and this may be an anathema to Western criminal law, but crime against the person, murder, for example, is not just a crime against the state. So there's one prerogative or right vested in the state to punish the offender and restore social order, but there's an alternate or a parallel right vested in the victim or the victim's heirs to decide whether they wish to prosecute the offender or pardon the offender, whether for compensation or without compensation. Now, even under these Islamized provisions, even if the victim or the victim's heirs pardon the offender, and when we're talking about honour crimes, these are usually intra-family offences. So, for example, if just to give you an example, fairly common one, a brother murders his sister in the name of honour, the victim's heirs are his own parents, for example, and they would be very willing to forgive the offender, in this case, their own son, rather than see him being punished and go to jail. So even in that scenario, the law states that even in its original form, the law stated, dating back to the 1990s, that the judges still have the discretion to sentence the offender for 14, up to 14 years, or minimum 14 years in jail. Pakistani judges have come up with, over the last 2 or more decades, have come up with this very cultural understanding, very patriarchal understanding of Islamic law, with the result that when in honour killings and even other murder cases, when the victim's heirs pardon the offender, the judges do not exercise that discretion to award a jail sentence. And to give you an example, even in 2004, there was a specific legislation passed to fix a minimum floor of minimum of 25 years punishment for murder offences committed in the name of honour and other honour crimes, but the judges have effectively read that provision out into a nullity.
Thank you very much, Moeen, for your explanation. And in your opinion, Moeen, which would be the best pathway in Pakistani society to tackle honour killings and honour crimes in general?
Well, that's a very big question, a very big challenge. All I can meaningfully say is that honour crimes and honour killings are a very deep-rooted social problem, very deep social, cultural, and economic roots in a patriarchal society. As I mentioned in some detail, law is a part of the problem, and that legal problem needs to be, that legal dimension, that negative legal dimension needs to be addressed and removed, and honour crimes need to be effectively criminalized and penalized, but that by itself will not solve the problem. nor can the problem be simply legislated away, like with all deeply entrenched social problems. A whole host of meaningful initiatives are required, meaningful civic education, for example, or more significantly, furthering women's empowerment, women's participation in the workplace. So other things which people might not directly relate to honor crimes, but legislation, penalizing or criminalizing, or other sexual harassment in the workplace, which enables women to come, be more effective and be economically empowered, or dealing with domestic violence generally, and not just through criminalization, but other means as well, needs to be brought amongst a whole host of other issues. And I must say there have been some positive developments in these two domains recently.
Thank you very much for being with us. And for more information, please visit our website www.internationalaffairs.org.au. Thank you.